The Charlotte Ledger Podcast is a member of the Queen City Podcast Network.
Hey, it's Christina Bowling with the Charlotte Ledger, and you're listening to the Charlotte Ledger Podcast. This episode of the podcast is presented by Apparo, a Charlotte-based nonprofit that supports other nonprofits through technology and business process improvement. As a community connector, Apparo now hosts the Blue Diamond Awards, Charlotte's prestigious award series that recognizes organizations and individuals innovatively using tech to better achieve their mission or business goals. Winners are celebrated at Apparo networking events, where tech and business professionals gather to applaud recent accomplishments, network, and share innovative ideas and best practices in the business. Today, we're talking to Kim Lanphear, who's CEO of Apparo. We're also joined by Arno Czerveny, who is the head of investment banking, research, government and institutional banking, and sales technology at Wells Fargo. Arno has volunteered with Apparo since 2019, and he's been a judge for the organization's Mission Possible Awards. Recently, he was the recipient of the Tech Exec Community Impact Blue Diamond Award, which recognizes a local technology leader with a proven track record of donating their time, talents, and treasure to support area nonprofits in need. So first, welcome to you both.
Thank you so much, Christina.
It's great to have you on the podcast. I want to get into our discussion by talking about what Apparo is and the important role that it plays in Charlotte's nonprofit community.
Apparo is a nonprofit, and we serve other nonprofits. And our mission is to help all of the different missions of the community, and any one that you might be passionate about, to deliver their services more effectively and efficiently. And we do that by bringing in the skills of technology volunteers to help nonprofits with their business processes that are related to technology, which means all of their business processes, and with technology specifically. And that's what we do.
Great. I'd love it if you could both tell me a little bit about your own backgrounds and what led you to become involved with Apparo and to kind of seek out this kind of work.
I'll start, and then I'll turn it over to Arno. So I've been with Apparo for 15 years, and Apparo has been in existence for 20 years here in the Charlotte-Mecklenburg area. I came here looking for a role to do better in the community, to do work that lifts the community, and ultimately became the CEO. Prior to being with Apparo, I had been in the for-profit world. I worked with banking both domestically and internationally, with not consumer banking, but both business-to-business banking. And I've also run a professional theater in the Chicago market. So it's kind of I don't call it a career ladder, I call it a career jungle gym. Around of different things.
Interesting. That's an interesting variety of things that you've done. Yeah. How about you, Arno?
Well, Christina, for us is, throughout the company, right? We have the Wells Fargo businesses and the Wells Fargo Foundation. We have always seek to help communities, right? And as a company, we provide incentives for people to participate. We have across all the locations about a little over 100,000 employees that participate in internal and external volunteering. And for Charlotte in specific, we met Apparo through the work that Kim and others are doing. And it became a very easy conversation for us to join the Wells Fargo employees that want to donate their time and their talents to then connect with the opportunities that Apparo brought to the table for us to just help those communities, right? We call these the skills-based volunteering program internally. And through that program, we basically create groups of Wells Fargo employees from all of them have technology background. And then we partner with Apparo to help connect that group of volunteers with local nonprofits that need technology, and then we can help them. These groups work for about 3 months together, very closely and collaborating a lot with the nonprofits and help them in any way that they can during those 3 months. Very close collaboration and great partnership. We couldn't do this without Apparo's help, and again, I'm very happy to help the community.
So when they're doing those 3-month kind of rotations, are they embedded with the organization, or are they working, kind of an extra hour? How does that work?
Well, what we do is essentially 1 to 2 hours per week of volunteer time that each volunteer will commit to. And we typically do meetings in a time that works for the nonprofit and for them, right? Think, late afternoons, 4:30 seems to be a pretty common time for meetings, right? Is late enough that is after their days, that right, doesn't conflict with their work schedules, but they still can get on the phone and connect with the nonprofits and work with them on whatever needs they have. So that's what we do, 1 to 2 hours per week for 3 months. That's the commitment that we ask for the 5 volunteers. And it seems to be working pretty well, right? They love it. It's a chance for them to decompress as well, right? We all have busy lives, and everybody has a lot to do at work and with families. But we reserve a little bit of those hours to connect with these nonprofits that need a little bit of help, and it's pretty amazing to see that coming together and the satisfaction, the feedback that we hear from the employees during the program and after the program is just satisfaction, right? To have helped the community, to get to know people outside of their day-to-day, their work, connect with others. Not only the employees connect with each other, they come from different groups in the company. They often never met before the projects with nonprofits start. And then connecting with the community, right? Connecting with the nonprofits. These are connections that they wouldn't have had without the projects, and they make new friends along the way.
I will tell you, Arno's talking about what we call community impact projects, which are those longer projects where teams come together. And we have opportunities as well that are smaller, that are 1 hour and done kind of opportunities as well, or longer hours, part of a day, if that's the way organizations want to go on. One of the unique things that Apparo brings to the partnership is facilitation. So in any kind of volunteering, there's a power imbalance. You have corporate partners who have a lot of knowledge and a lot of economic privilege in our community coming in to give assistance to a nonprofit, and there's a power imbalance in that. So we believe that it's important to have a facilitator like Apparo in the middle, particularly when you're dealing with skilled volunteering relating to technology, because it's very important, as any volunteer, this is just kind of a comment to anybody who's listening to any kind of volunteering, that you come in and you listen to what the nonprofit tells you they need, rather than coming in with, here's what I think you need and I'll do it for you. That's where you see that kind of power imbalance. And Apparo sits in the middle of that and makes sure what we deliver is something that the nonprofit is ready to receive, has defined it as being ready to receive, and has a very finite scope around it, so that both the volunteer and the nonprofit can have this defined time together to really dig in and make something that can be sustained later. 92% of our work is sustained 2 years after the volunteers leave. And many times volunteers become different kinds of volunteers with those organizations, as well as board members or even donors. So it's an ecosystem creation through this process.
I would add one important point from the volunteers' perspective. We started to see many of them come into this ecosystem that Kim talked about and say, I would love to volunteer with my own kids. And we saw in one of the last project that we made, we had 5 employees of Wells Fargo and 3 students, the children from the employees that also participated. And the feedback at the end, it was great, right? With the students saying, hey, now I know a little more about what my father and mother do for a living. Right, to start to see it all in action, start to get involved with the local nonprofit, starts to get involved with the community and see, the challenges that we have and how we can help and all that. So that to me, that was a great, development to see the students and the volunteers start to ask for that engagement from their kids.
That's so interesting. It's kind of a different way of taking your kids to work, but then also having them see you put your skills to work in a different arena that can help the community. That seems really powerful.
Absolutely. And the nonprofits were very receptive, right? We encouraged the students to really participate and speak up, and they helped us to prepare presentations and both the volunteers as well as the nonprofits really encouraged them, gave them the support that they needed and the patience and the grace of letting them ask the questions. And sometimes the questions were basic, they never complained. They walked through the answers and all that. So it was an excellent partnership across the board.
What are some of the needs that you see that nonprofits have when it comes to technology and business support? And how does Apparo help to fill those needs with these volunteers?
We see needs across some very distinct areas. When we're talking particularly about the projects, we see projects in three categories. One is needing to understand and assess their current technology infrastructure. What's there, what's about to break, what is way outdated, what is really good, and they should be leaning more into that, and creating a technology plan for 3 years so they can see how they're going to develop, what funds they're going to need to develop, and what skills they're going to need to be able to maintain an infrastructure. The second thing that we see is a business process roadmap. And that's really a team that comes in and says, we're going to look at every business process that you have, everything, fundraising, program delivery, learning management systems, HR, finance, everything. And we're going to map out the process for you so that you can see exactly what it takes to get each one of these processes done and where maybe we could tighten up and save you a significant amount of time. Business process roadmap. The third is an application selection. So perhaps they need a new tool to manage their donors, or they need a new tool to more effectively manage how they're engaging with students. Rather than them just going alone to the internet and saying, I'm going to Google this and figure this out, and here are 3 that look good, and then they implement it and it doesn't meet their needs. We bring in skilled volunteers who help them really finely define, this is what it must do for me. This technology tool must do these 20 things. These 5 things I'd really like it to do, and these are the dreams. And then our professionals go to the market with our help, and they look at tools and they say, okay, here are 3 that can do everything that you have to have. And here's the price range. We'll show you what they look like, and you make a decision. And that way, the nonprofit knows when they implement a new tool, it's something that will really address everything they need it to address. And they'll go in with their eyes wide open. We're beginning to see more cybersecurity assessments as well, where nonprofits are beginning to understand that it doesn't matter whether you're Target or a 3-person nonprofit. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when you will be targeted for some sort of cyber attack. And so how do we help them be more secure in that environment? And we have groups that do that with them. A lot of the work we do is talking to nonprofits and helping them navigate the technology language that may be fear-inducing for them because they don't have anyone on their team who is dedicated to that in many cases. And so how do we help them navigate their business challenges, what they're facing in their efforts to serve that are very cumbersome, that are causing them to have to do so many hours of work to deliver this service? How can we help them see and articulate a business process or technology improvement would help them do that more effectively with less of all that time and energy?
We'll be right back to the episode, but first, this episode of the Charlotte Ledger podcast is presented by Apparo, a nonprofit amplifying the impact of nonprofit missions in our communities through technology. So it sounds like it really has a huge impact on their ability to deliver services and in ways that they did not even realize that could be possible.
Well, I was going to add to what Kim said, right? The highlighting of the donating your talent, right? Many of the volunteers do this for a living, right? So for them, it kind of becomes second nature. But as Kim pointed out, for the nonprofits, these can sound like rocket science, right? Because they don't necessarily have an IT department, and when they do, it's small and they're busy. So the connection of the volunteers to come and bring that expertise that they have, that they already do this, right, and do it at scale, bring to nonprofits, I think it becomes an amazing combination.
One of the reasons that even the need for skilled volunteering even exists is because of a misunderstanding in the marketplace in America that nonprofits, because they have this name nonprofit, they're not businesses. And they are businesses who have a tax designation. And so like any other business, a nonprofit does need profit because that's how they invest in serving more. And that's how they invest in keeping their employees and motivating their employees, just like any other business. But oftentimes nonprofits are started from the heart, and it may not be someone who's been thinking about setting up a business. It's not like an entrepreneur who says, I'm going to start up a small business. It's someone who sees a need in the community, an artist, a minister, a social worker, a mom or a dad who's experienced some sort of trauma who says, I want to fill this void. And so they're serving, they're leaning in and they're serving, but they're not thinking about necessarily business structure. And as a result of this misnomer that nonprofits aren't businesses, a lot of our donating population think that you want to donate for beds and food and whatever else it is that you need to serve doctors and those kinds of things, but that you don't need to have infrastructure to serve it, right? People sometimes call that overhead. But if you asked any business person out there to run a business and make the services strong and efficient and quickly delivered and easily delivered, they would tell you they have to have infrastructure to do it. You couldn't have online banking if you didn't have infrastructure. You couldn't have checkouts in your grocery stores if you didn't have infrastructure to do that. So this is why this need for skilled volunteering exists in this space, because most don't want to pay for this area. They don't understand the importance of infrastructure for nonprofits.
How can a nonprofit link up with Apparo and be considered for services?
If you are a 501c3 and you have one paid employee, you can go to our website, which is apparo.org. As a nonprofit, we have .org, not .com. And you'll see a nonprofit tab, and in there it says get started. And that all of it is an email form, and you send it to us, and one of our team will reach back out.
How would you describe how invested Charlotte's technology and business community is? Is it hard to get volunteers?
No. Sometimes it's hard to get volunteers because they don't know we're there. We're a hidden secret, which I wish we were not, but we are. Probably because as soon as you say the word technology, people kind of go, oh, I don't want to talk about that. But once a company knows who we are, and once a technology leader knows who we are and what we can do for their team as far as morale boosting and energy boosting and culture of engagement in the community and professional development, even within the skill sets, we don't have a hard time getting volunteers. We always want more. So if you want to use your skills for good, please let us know. We would love to find an opportunity to connect you to, because we're growing into other markets and we're growing within this market, and we always need more volunteers. So please, but the technology community in Charlotte has been so incredibly generously invested in us. When you hear Arno talk about it, you can hear his passion for leaning into this and what generosity that is. And that's not his day job, right? That's what he's giving, and his team have decided they want to spend time and energy back to the community. So that is an example of really wonderful investment in the work.
Do volunteers need to be, 20, 30-year veterans of, in the sector, or can they be relatively young, new employees, new people in the workforce?
They can absolutely be new. Most of the time when you're dealing with a nonprofit who doesn't have a big infrastructure or a lot of infrastructure, you're dealing with things at a more junior level of technology. We are not doing coding. We are not doing high-level infrastructure, input or development. We are doing a lot of business process. That's really what it is, related to the tools that exist or need to exist, helping them elevate their best practices.
And we have them volunteer as a group, right? So as we plan for these groups, we try to find a good combination of people that have a substantial experience in the area that we need, but also folks that are learning, right? And we talked about having students join, right? So there are many volunteers that are very new to the areas, and they learn as we execute each project. We see more and more the senior volunteers often kick off a conversation and all that, but then they quickly turn into more of a mentoring and asking questions, both asking questions of the nonprofits as well as asking questions from the other volunteers, right? And say, what do you think, or what is your suggestion, right? How would you think about this, right? And it becomes a learning experience for all of them. You were talking about finding volunteers before, right? The part of that experience, and something that we see a lot, is the past volunteers become quick promoters of the programs and the word out, right? Talking about their experience and that satisfaction of getting to the end of the project. We do a final presentation to them. They come out of that meeting with that, feel good sensation of, I help the community. I don't come to the office just to do my work and I go home. In addition to that, I also help the community in this way, and they can see those benefits when the nonprofit talks about the impact that they've done. You can see the volunteers on the call feeling proud. And as a result, they talk about that to their colleagues, and more people raise their hands to volunteer, which is awesome.
Kim, I don't know if you would want to drop some names of some local companies who have volunteers who participate.
Absolutely. We have almost 300 corporations who've been involved with the work we do. So we have some of the largest and some of the smallest companies who get engaged with what we do. So some companies that you might know would be Duke Energy, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Truist, Ally Financial, Honeywell. Lowe's has been a big supporter of ours. Several of the consulting firms, EY, Accenture has been a big partner to us. Microsoft, Jabian, Captech, Centric Consulting. I could just go on forever. Rogers Builders, international firms like Ahold Delhaize, which locally here as Food Lion, Polypore International, which you probably don't know because they're an extruder company, and Midrex. I could just go on and on about the engagement of companies through this program.
And do you try to pair volunteers from companies that might kind of align with the mission of a nonprofit, or is it more kind of skill specific, if that makes sense?
It is both. So sometimes when we go in with a partner corporation, they are very specific about, we are as an organization passionate about veterans services, or we are passionate about hunger services. And then we bring them into that arena and create partnerships that are in that particular mission area. As I said earlier, we serve all the missions, so we can do that. It also can be that they're not as concerned about where they serve. They just want to serve. And then we will say, well, here are the skills you said you want to give, and here's some places that are needing those skills right now. And then we partner them that way.
That's great. I want to make sure in our conversation that we talk about the Blue Diamond Awards, because I know that they have a long history in Charlotte and that they're kind of entering a new chapter under Apparo. And I was wondering, if you could tell us what the awards are and what's coming soon, what's up next in the series.
Sure. The Blue Diamonds have been part of the technology awards landscape of Charlotte for more than 25 years. And recently, it was held by a different organization who closed doors during the pandemic. And they came to us and said, would you have this, the Blue Diamonds continue? And we said, absolutely, we'd love to. And we've done it in a way, instead of one big event, we've done multiple awards across the course of the year at smaller events that we hold throughout the year. And our next is on the next two Blue Diamonds, and those are for entrepreneurial awards and business impact award for individual or team from an organization that achieves the greatest business value from deployment and use of IT and IT solutions. So those are two awards coming up, and we'd love for you to nominate some organization that you think should be recognized.
That's great. How can people learn more about the awards and do that nomination?
Of course, and it is at our website, apparo.org. And you would go under the tab, and you'll see Blue Diamond Awards there, and you can go in there and nominate someone.
Great. And if somebody wants to volunteer, how can they do that? How can they get in touch with you?
They can reach out to any of us off of our website of our team. They can reach out to board members, people like Arno, your technology leader, ask them if they know about us. And if not, again, go to that website, apparo.org, and you would go under, I think it's corporate volunteer. And then it says, get started here. And it's an email, you send your name and you say what you're interested in doing, and someone will reach out to you.
Well, it has been such a pleasure getting to know you, Kim and Arno. And thank you so much for sharing, the information about this really important work that's happening, and just giving people a chance to learn more about what you do and get involved either as a volunteer or as a nonprofit that maybe could use some help.
Thank you so much for this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you, Christina.
That's it for today. The Charlotte Ledger podcast is produced by Lindsay Banks. Find out more about the Charlotte Ledger by going to thecharlotteledger.com. This episode of the Charlotte Ledger podcast was presented by Apparo, a nonprofit creating a mutually beneficial ecosystem for nonprofits and skilled professionals with a passion for creating social good. Programs like the Blue Diamond Awards recognize leaders leveraging tech to make a difference. Learn more, apply, or nominate someone today at apparo.org.
QueenCityPodcastNetwork.com.